Alright, today we're going to be looking at Hisuian Braviary. This is a Pokemon that's coming out of the Legends of Arceus game, one of my favorite games. If you haven't played it, I do recommend trying it. Otherwise, let's go ahead and look at this Pokemon. So, Braviary is going to be a Psychic Flying type Pokemon, and its stats are going to be a little all over the place. So, its defenses and speed are pretty low. Defenses are both at 70 for both physical and special defense, and the speed is at 65. So, it's not really shining brightly when it comes to these stats here. However, it does have a special attack stat of 112 and an HP stat of 110. These are pretty good and definitely something we can work with. Its physical attack stat is 83, not important for the builds that we're doing today. The Braviary can host 3 different abilities. It has Keen Eye, Sheer Force, and Tinted Lens. Keen Eye is not the one we're going to use at all in this build. It basically makes it so you can't get accuracy drops. Sheer Force and Tinted Lens are the ones that we're going to be really focusing on. Sheer Force is really nice because it increases the damage for any of your damaging moves that have additional effects. So for example, Esper Wing is a signature move for the Braviary, and it increases our speed stat after we hit somebody with it. And what this would do is increase the damage on that by 30%, but it would take away that additional effect. So we would no longer get our speed increase, for example. Now, Tinted Lens is one that we're going to be looking at mostly here in these builds, and that's because what it does is it takes any not very effective hit and doubles the damage on it, bringing it back up to a normal damaging power. So you take your Esper Wing, something comes out, not very effective, you use your Esper Wing on it, it doubles that damage and brings the efficacy of the hit back up to its normal ratio. It's not a super effective hit or anything like that, but you're still going to get your regular amount of damage out instead of having to reduce damage from a not very effective hit. Alright, now moving on to resistances and weaknesses. Braviary is going to have a bit of both, so let's go ahead and take a look. Psychic and Grass types will be reduced by 50% or 1/2, so it's good to go against those, but even better to go against fighting types, as it will resist those by 75% or 1/4. Now it does have a full, complete immunity to ground types, as it is a flying type, so any ground attacks that come after the Braviary, assuming you don't have anything on the field that's bringing you to the ground or anything, you will be able to completely ignore those attacks. So this is a good swap-in option. If you have something that's an obvious Earthquake user or whatnot, you can swap in the Braviary to get a free swap without damage being taken. Now, weaknesses, it does have 5 different weaknesses here. Rock, Ghost, Ice, Dark, and Electric type, it's all going to be 2 times weak to, so twice the efficacy on those elemental types. So just be careful of that. Alright, so for the first build here, we're going to go with the top build that's being used in competitive right now with Hisuian Braviary. But to be fair, there's not a whole lot of Braviary being used. So while this is the top set, it's less than a percentage point of usage. But let's go ahead and take a look before we get into the other builds. So we're going to go ahead and go with a Psychic or Flying Tera typing here. It is whichever one is your preference. It's completely up to you. The stat spread is going to be 108 EVs into HP, 252 into special attack, and 148 into speed. This way, we're getting a little bit of bulk. We're obviously maxing out on our damage, and we're also giving a little bit of speed so we can get ourselves into a different speed tier, especially if you do use or swap in something like Esper Wing, which is going to raise your speed even more. That's going to give you more of that speed type advantage. However, with this build, we are not using Esper Wing. Instead, we're going to be using Protect, Hurricane, Psychic, and Heat Wave. Now, I am a big fan of Heat Wave on this Pokemon for sure, and Protect always has its benefits. Hurricane, I like it, but if you have like a rain team or something, otherwise, I want to use this Pokemon as straight, dedicated damage that I don't have to worry about it missing. I like Hurricane on some Pokemon, but unless I'm putting this in a rain team, I'm probably not going to use it on the Braviary, but this is the top set being used. Psychic is going to give you a little bit more damage out than the Esper Wing. However, with the Esper Wing, I do like the speed increase. So again, that's personal preference and completely up to you. The ability, nature, and item for this, we're going to go with Sheer Force. So it's going to boost all those attacks with secondary things like Psychic, for example, so that they can have an additional 30% increase. We're going to go with Modest to further boost our damage out. The items that you can use here are going to be Life Orb, Citrus Berry, and Choice Specs. Now, there's a whole list on there, but these are the top 3 that are being used, and the percentages really drop off after the third one. But Life Orb, very solid choice on here. You're going to see that in some of the other builds. Citrus Berry you can use to get a little bit of healing, but with its bulk, or I'm sorry, its defense is at 70. That's just not very high. I don't want to have to assume I don't get one shot. So I like having the extra damage with the Life Orb or the choice specs. Moving on to teammates, the 4 most used teammates for this Pokemon are going to be in conjunction with Therian Landorus, Iron Hands, Tornadus, and Basculegion. These are all awesome Pokemon. I mean, Landorus has been, ripping up competitive since it came out. You know what I mean? So that's a good one. Iron Hands, very solid choice of a Pokemon, very heavy hitting, decent bulk. All of these are good, and I'm going to be doing a Basculegion video for both male and female because I think they're great. And this is a male Basculegion from what I can tell on the Pokélytics. So these are very good Pokemon that you can use, and these should be in some of your other teams anyways. But those are the top 4 for Hisuian Braviary. Alright, the next build that we're going to be looking at is going to be a Tera Normal type. So what we're going to do is add some normal attacks in to get some stab bonus. So the EV spread here is going to be HP 156, Speed 100, Special Attack 252. Still maximizing that special attack, but we've kind of inverted the speed and HP here. But that's also because we're going to be using Esper Wing, which is going to give us our +1 to speed every time it connects and hits. So we don't need quite as many EVs into speed, and with that being an already lower stat as it is, I don't want to waste too much EVs into it, so give us a little bit extra bulk. That being said, the moveset is going to be Esper Wing, Protect, Calm Mind, and Hyper Voice. Now, if you don't want to use Calm Mind, you could definitely substitute in either Air Slash, Hurricane, or Heat Wave. Any of those would be very viable options for you. I do like the Heat Wave and Hyper Voice options because they do obviously hit everything on the other side of the field. You could also do a Dazzling Gleam in there as well. But you definitely want Hyper Voice on here because we're using the normal type Tera, and that is going to give you your stab bonus on the Hyper Voice. Now for the ability, nature, and item, you could use your Tinted Lens. That's going to make sure that even if it's not very effective, you're doing regular damage. Or you could even go with the Sheer Force here. Now that would take off your speed boost from your Esper Wing and so on, but it will make certain attacks like your Esper Wing hit very, very hard. Just make sure that you have attacks in there with secondary effects so that Sheer Force can actually take effect. Otherwise, it will do nothing. For your nature, you can do either Modest or Timid here. It depends really on what you're looking for and what your team needs. Modest is going to boost that special attack further. Timid is going to boost your speed. For the items, Life Orb, Throat Spray, Citrus Berry, and HD Boots, Heavy Duty Boots. So the Life Orb, don't need to explain that too much. Great item. Throat Spray is going to make it when you use a vocal attack, a sound-based attack, for the first time. It's going to consume that Throat Spray, and you're going to get a +1 to your special attack stat. Hyper Voice is the one that would proc that for you in this case. Citrus Berry, again, that's healing. I threw that on there because people seem to like it for this Pokemon, but not what I'm going to be using for the Braviary. And the Heavy Duty Boots, I included those here because there seems to be a lot more trapping going on right now when it comes to like Toxic Spikes or Stealth Rock or whatever. So this is nice to be able to avoid some of those traps and hazards. Now the reason we chose normal type here is because obviously one of your weaknesses is going to be ghost type Pokemon, and something like a Fluttermane is pretty common right now in the competitive scene. So let's say Fluttermane comes out, it's going to use Shadow Ball on you, you tear up into your normal type, and suddenly it does no damage. So that's nice because you have that resistance, that immunity to ghost type Pokemon when you're normal. So you get that, and that Shadow Ball, you eat 0 damage, and you come back and do a ton of damage back to it. So that's why we chose the normal type for this specific build here. It's just a little catch you off guard kind of play. Alright, now this next build, we're going to mix it up a little bit. We are going to be using the Tera type of Fire, so we are going to utilize Heat Wave in this build. The stat spread is going to be basically the same as the last one, 156 into HP, 100 to speed, 252 to special attack. However, you might want to play with that a little bit depending on whether or not you use Esper Wing. Now, I put Esper Wing down here with Protect, Heat Wave, and Air Slash with the alternatives of Dazzling Gleam and Psychic. Now, the reason that I have these as alternatives, more Psychic as the alternative, is because Sheer Force is one of the ones that you can and maybe should use for this build because of Heat Wave and the Tera Fire type. Now, Heat Wave, it does a really solid amount of damage and hits everything on the other side of the the field anyways, but then when you Tera into fire, you're going to get your stab bonus. And if you go ahead and use sheer force with that, it'll take away the 10% chance of burning, however, increase the damage of the heat wave by 30%, which is significant in this case. So you may want to switch out your Esper Wing to your Psychic so that you do get the 30% increase on the 90 power Psychic instead of just having a 30% increase on the 80 power Esper Wing. Now, that damage difference, while there is a difference, it is not super crazy difference. So it's completely up to you which one you want to pick as far as EW or Psychic. That being said, either one of the abilities, Sheer Force or Tinted Lens, does have viability here, because if you have Heat Wave out and everything on the other side of the field, it's not very effective, but you've got Tinted Lens on, you might not be doing an additional 30% increase on whatever your not very effective damage is, but instead you would be getting double the damage and bringing that back up to a normal damaging move. So Tinted Lens also has a lot of viability here. I like both of these, and I have both of these. I have a Braviary that's fire with Sheer Force and Braviary that's fire with Tinted Lens, and they both have about the same kind of win ratio and sweeping power. So either one is really as good. I kind of lean a little towards Sheer Force here, but Tinted Lens is good. As far as the nature, same thing, Modest, Timid, whether you're going for special attack or speed, Life Orb, Throat Spray, Citrus Berry, and HD Boots again, so same as the last build there. I am using mostly Life Orb on this Pokemon here. The Heavy Duty Boots would also be my secondary one. I'm not really using the Throat Spray. That would be only if you were using Hyper Voice here. So if you're not using Hyper Voice, definitely don't use Throat Spray. And I didn't really like it in general. It was okay, but Life Orb seemed to outpace it significantly. And then the Citrus Berry, again, if you just want to have that on there or your other items are being used, then throw a berry on there, you're good to go. Alright, this last build I kind of put together for some fun. I like having something that has a fairy typing when it's really not fairy typing at all. And so I think that's just kind of fun every now and then to do, and you can kind of troll other fairy types when they come out thinking they're going to kill you. So we went with the fairy typing here, got a unique stat spread, speed 12, HP 156, defense 244, and special defense 96. So we really worked on our bulk here to make us a little bit more tanky, and what we're going to be really going for here is just chipping away at HP stats. So we're going to have Esper Wing for our speed up, we're going to have Dazzling Gleam for the Tera Fairy typing, plus it attacks both targets on the upside side of the field, but that way we have an actual fairy type attack. Now you could put Terra Blast in for this or something else like that to get a more dedicated single mono hit, but Dazzling Gleam I like for this. U-turn so we can switch out if we need to if we have a bad matchup, and Shadow Ball if we come across any ghost types that need to be dealt with. The alternates here, Air Slash, Heat Wave. I mean, this Pokemon has a really big move pool, so there's a lot of different things you could add in here if you like. But I'm going for this fun build with just Esper Wing, Dazzling Gleam, U-turn, and Shadow Ball. Now for ability, nature, and item, Tinted Lens for this one, because we're only using really two things that have an additional effect. Shadow Ball is more of a just in case, and Esper Wing is really on there to give us our speed up. So if you do go with Sheer Force, make sure you switch out Esper Wing to Psychic, because I think that just makes more sense. Get the extra damage out and so on. But you could do a lot with this Pokemon for this fun build here, just whatever is going to work for you. So Tinted Lens, Bold Nature, work on our defenses some more. Assault Vest, special defense increase. And you could do Citrus Berry. It makes a little bit more sense here with the bulk spread. And or a Quick Claw. If you're going to be super slow and you're going to take Esper Wing out and put Psychic in, maybe you want Quick Claw, so every now and then you get to go first, you know? But this is just a fun build at the end of the day. I'd really be focusing on the others, especially that fire build. I think that's my favorite build, and it's definitely the one that I had the most success with out of all the different Terra types and everything for this Pokemon. And I really like that build. Plus, it filled a gap in the team I was kind of playing with, where I had no fire damage out. So it really worked well for me, but I think it would work well for you as well. So try that fire one out. But if you have a good build for this Pokemon that you think is awesome, please put it down in the comments. Let me know. If you have questions, also put down in the comments. I will respond to you. And like and subscribe to the video if you found this entertaining or helpful at all, guys. I really appreciate it. But otherwise, thanks for hanging out. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But until then, take care.